मैं 2 मिनट में बोलता हूँ कि we can starting right at 3:30. Good evening, everyone. I welcome you all on behalf of Cambridge Assessment English. We are here to deliver our webinar for today, supporting learner well-being and academic achievement post-COVID. So we will precisely start at 3:30. Thank you for joining us early, and we'll start today's webinar right at 3:30. Thank you for being patient with us. Thank you. Hello and good evening, everyone. Welcome to this session. We are delighted to have you today. My name is Abhishek Gusai, and I work in the Business Development Department of Cambridge Assessment English. Before we actually start this session, just to say, like many of you, we are working from home and we are aiming to give you the best experience we can. But of course, we are relying on home Wi-Fi. So please bear with us if we do have any issues. Hopefully not, but just in case. In fact, we are live from UK and India both, so keeping our finger crossed that everything works well today. We recommend you wear headphones to get better audio quality, and we would suggest you if you got any other program running in the background like Skype or Zoom or something else, it is better to switch it off so that this platform is stable for you for the whole duration of the event today. During the webinar, we request you to please be on mute and use the chat box to type out the questions. We will have approximately 15 minutes in the end for the Q&A and some housekeeping guidelines for all. So uh, since I already told you everyone, most of us are working from home, so there could be some technical challenges, there could be some personal challenges. So bear with us in that case. And in case during the webinar, if you're not able to hear the presenter or if you're not able to see the presentation, you will find one reconnect button on the center top of your screen. Once you click on it, in majority of the cases, that will sort out the problem for you. So just click on the reconnect button in case you face any difficulty during the webinar, and that will help you. So once again, welcome everybody. As you will see, we have one of the catchiest topic today, supporting learner well-being and academic achievement post-COVID. So today, while we look at the challenges and opportunities of learning and teaching during the pandemic, how are schools planning their transition back to school, and how we can build back, especially in light of the new education policy. So to discuss this, it gives me immense pleasure to welcome our distinguished panelists for the evening. So the first panelist for today, we have Dr. Amrita Vohra. She is she has over 25 years of transformative work in education. Dr. Amrita Vohra is a passionate learner and educator, currently serving as Director Education for GEMS Education India and Executive Principal for GEMS International Schools, Gurgaon, a PhD in English Literature and a certified program leader for Cambridge Professional Development Qualification for teachers and school leaders. She is also a Bharatanatyam dancer and has always had a keen interest in dramatic arts and drama in education. Her key research interests are women and child psychology, pedagogy, assessment, inclusive education, teacher professional development, curriculum design, school improvement, quality assurance, and early childhood education. So welcome Dr. Amrita Vohra for today's webinar with us. And our second panelist for the evening is Ms. Hamza Priya. She is the academic director for Mahatma Group of Schools. She leads the academic activities of all seven schools catering to 12,000 students under Mahatma. So Ms. Priya holds a master's degree in psychology with a PG diploma in learning, disability and guidance and counseling. She have a B.Ed degree as well. The schools were founded in the year 1983 by Mrs. Premalata, her mother. Her vision was to build creative schools, providing a rich experience for children by offering value-based education, which inculcates confidence, intellectual curiosity, harmony, creativity to become renowned citizen of tomorrow. The school, after almost 40 years, follow the same guiding principle of its founder. The third panelist we have with us today evening is Mrs. Kavita Mathur, an experienced academic head with demonstrated history of working in the education management industry. Mrs. Kavita Mathur has been a teacher since 1989. In this long span of 32 years, she has not only headed schools but has also successfully helped set up new schools in more than one location across India. To name a few of her accomplishments, she has helped set up the CBSE School Sahodaya in the city of Jabalpur, is a QCI certified lead assessor, has taken up schools reformation projects in more than one location, and has headed various residential as well as day schools. So welcome Ms. Kavita Mathur for today's panel discussion. And now our fourth panelist, or I would say the moderator for today's panel discussion, we have Ms. Lyn Dale, my colleague Lyn Dale. She is the Senior Assessment Manager and Assessment Psychologist for Cambridge Assessment Admissions Testing. Lyn is responsible for the design, validation, and use of psychometric tests. She has expertise in using personality assessment and coaching methods in education. She has an MSc in Occupational Psychology and is an ILM trained coach. So Lyn will moderate the panel discussion today. Over to Lyn now. Thank you.
Thank you, Abhishek. Can everyone hear me? Hello.
Yes, you are audible, Lyn.
Great, thank you. I just thought I'd check before proceeding. Good afternoon, good evening. Just to start, I'd like to say the United Nations estimates that about 1.5 billion children in 191 countries have been affected by the pandemic. In the UK, we've experienced lockdowns, schools being closed and home learning being the rule. But on the 8th of March, we reopened our schools, but with twice weekly COVID testing. And our Prime Minister has recently warned that probably come the autumn, we can expect another wave of the pandemic coming through again. During these pandemic times, schools around the world are learning to teach effectively, new methods to teach effectively, and new ways to look after their students. But uncertain times also bring opportunities as well as challenges, all themes the panel will address. I'm an occupational and assessment psychologist, and my interest is in measuring and developing soft skills that support well-being and also academic achievement. For me, the personal capabilities being challenged in these times include things such as the ability to independently learn, resilience in a sense of adapting to change, setbacks, losses, new challenges, and also social skills. I was going to say to you, are you aware of what's going on for your silent students who don't ask questions online or don't ask for help? It can be hard when you're teaching remotely to tell how engaged they are and if there are any well-being issues or skills losses. My colleague Yvette will be presenting later on an assessment called the CPSQ that can help you understand more about your students' attitudes, behaviours, emotional development and social development. Now, I work on this assessment, so I'm declaring an interest before we begin. The panel will address roughly 3 topic areas. What are the challenges and opportunities of learning and teaching during a pandemic? And I'm aware that things are rapidly changing. We've got a title to this webinar about being post-COVID, but we're all very much still in it. Part of the webinar will also look at transition back to school and making planning, because we will go back to school, and ways to deliver extra support to students who might need it. And then we will finish on the theme of building back better or staying the same. How might lessons learned during the pandemic influence future ways of teaching, and also the future of the new education policy? ? I'm going to start with Amrita, if I can do that, if I can have my panelists come and join me. If I can have all my panelists come join me, that'd be great. So my first question, but we'll start with Amrita, is what is your current situation?
It's a really, really tough situation. And the one word that I think defines it, uncertainty. There is uncertainty all around. We transitioned back into school fairly recently. And teachers are now trained not just for remote learning, but also for hybrid learning models, with some students online and some offline. And then the second surge of COVID in India has meant that there is much more to deal with. And we need to be highly, highly sensitive and very, very protective of everyone. So therefore, everybody is back to working from home, back to remote learning. And even there, unlike last year, there are way too many people suffering among students now, and parents and faculty and so on. So while they are at home, there are way too many people suffering or their family members suffering. So I think what we really now need is like a laser focus on staff and student well-being. Everything else aside, I think you've given the numbers and those are only growing. The pandemic is not yet behind us. It's still here to stay. While learning cannot be quarantined, and we've all learned a whole lot from this situation, I think now is the time when we give roses to all these thorns as educators. We really, really need to build that culture all around, where everybody is able to put values and sensitivity towards each other before any kind of goal setting.
Kindness.
Yes.
Yes.
So that has to be at the center. Yes, there will be probably a lot that may not be possible this session, but there will also be a whole lot, just like last session, which otherwise may not have been possible, which will now be a possibility. And therefore, the 3 R's are important. What do we retain? What do we restore? And what do we remove as we move? And what's very, very critical. So to my mind, what's the most critical is social and emotional well-being of everyone, as we have the parallel pandemic of social isolation alongside all the stresses all around that children also, let's remember, have to deal with.
Yeah. Hamza, I'm going to bring you in here. What's going on for you right now? Oh, we can't hear you. I think you're on mute.
Yeah. Can you hear me now? Thank you.
Yeah, we can hear you now. Great.
Yes. So the topic, as you said, supporting learner well-being and academic achievement post-COVID. So when I read the topic, I felt that, it is a very positive word, post-COVID, because as the earlier panelists said, it is not post-COVID because we are in COVID now. And whatever numbers went down, giving us a promise of opening schools in the month of June has really become like a mirage, that no, it's not going to happen. And we have to be all the more very careful about it. And yes, so we are continuing to deliver our lessons online. Yes. But today, our family members have also become our colleagues. because since teachers are teaching from home, they are also participating in whatever the teacher is doing from home. So what we do is like whenever we do something for the school and for children, today the well-being of the teacher is become more important for us when we are making these decisions and plans to teach online, because things are also happening around their families, and children have become more and more quiet. Initially, when it all started last year by this time, holding on to a device, because once upon a time all these devices were like entertainment for children. They were never used for educational purposes at all. Now, children have made a very big transition of using the same device from using it from entertainment to education. So I feel that itself is promoting self-discipline in them, and it has promoted a lot of self-learning in them. Sometimes when we are teaching from this mode of teaching, I feel that as though there is a lot of silence on the other side, and this side the teacher is... Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yeah, you just froze then. Just
really?
repeat what you did. Yeah, just go back a little bit.
I was telling, like, it's like no man's island. Sometimes when all children nowadays, due to internet disturbances, if their lines are not very strong, they switch off their cameras. So when the cameras are switched off, the teacher is just looking at the names on the screen. So sometimes I feel like the teacher is standing in a no man's land, and she's like just talking it out sometimes, in some situations. Yes. So this is the kind of challenge that we have. But despite all these challenges, challenges are always an opportunity. So considering challenges as an opportunity, each getting out of each day's teaching, when we brainstorm and when we are collecting the feedback from teachers, and when we are discussing on what best we can do, we as teachers are also trying to better it and make the learner become active and responsible and engaged through what we are trying to do for them.
Yeah. So, how are you getting over I mentioned the silent student right at the beginning. You've mentioned the ones that turn off the camera, and it could be due to technical issues, or it could be due to they wanted to turn off the... How do you get around that? How do you manage that?
So we have not gone directly to academic work. Academics is always that word puts off children. But if it is not academics, and if you're doing a lot of other things and doing a little bit of academics, a little bit of academic load is brought into each session, I think that brings a lot of interest in children to participate. So that's why we don't believe in giving direct question answers to assess them. But instead, these question answers they cannot find in the internet or open their books and notebooks to even sit for the assessment, but they have to reflect on what has happened, So to get into that kind of a thinking, it took us a long time, but we really like now setting up such kind of situations for children to respond. So no more like this is your mark or this many tests you've written. So we don't use such words, or we don't have those kind of criteria alone for assessment, but instead we just take note of what you have done. Where were you? Did you participate? That's the kind of thing. So when you are not pinning them down on all these kind of thing that will all the time check their performance, if you just give it to them, I feel they feel confident in coming together and participating, because each family is different.
So in a way, so you were rewarding kind of participation.
Yes.
And effort and giving immediate feedback rather than waiting for sort of a big test result at the end. You're giving constant encouragement. Now I'm going to bring in Kavita. Come join us. What's happening for you? Hello. Is she there? Oh, I don't know if we've lost her. Kavita, come on in. No, we may have lost her. Right, okay. Right. So, wasn't expecting that. What have been, you've mentioned some of the challenges of teaching during the pandemic. What would you say, and I'm looking at Amrita now, what would you say has been your biggest challenge?
So a whole lot actually, but I think the most important thing is the teachers' remote learning is not the same, neither is hybrid. So what's very, very key is the professional development of teachers. We can't think of teaching and learning in a remote model the way it used to be probably in the physical classroom. A whole lot of different devices are needed, a whole lot of different apps are there, and children are better at technology than our generation. They are smarter. And so the most important thing that I think has been learning has been that we are all no longer sage on stage or even facilitators as we've been thinking of ourselves. We are now co-learners with our students. And as co-learners, we really, really need to, in this education 4.0 that is all around us, learning also has moved from not just being, something which is for an organized setup for masses. It is very personalized and a lot makes it possible. And it needs to be, and from that, it is very much moving to a very personal kind of a way of learning, each child being different, and that's really getting addressed in multiple ways. So, and assessment is really at the heart of it. I think we've spoken about students taking ownership for years together as educators, but this is the time when it actually happened. Students genuinely got ownership of their learning, self-discipline, and those things had to creep in. Lots of independence had to be built in. So that when it actually happened, we have to stop looking at students as a collection of percentages. Students are individual beings, whole beings.
I'm going to jump in on you there and ask to go back and talk about, you mentioned some behaviors there that you thought were important for student progress. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? How is the pandemic sort of tested or drawn on certain types of attitude and behavior?
Yeah, see, so all of us have this urge to procrastinate. So the first idea, first thing would be that students would, oh, wow, now nobody can question me. I can go on mute and so much. So the first urge would naturally be to create chaos. But naturally, after a point, I think children realized and experience made it happen. And what they saw was happening was good. And therefore, they realized that, oh my God, I can do so much. Oh, this is all possible. So that made that change very visible. And the other thing that I think we did was SID marking was introduced, and children were assessing their own work and peer work a lot more in a structured manner. And then the teacher was discussing it with them. I think that built in a whole lot of academic honesty because they knew what was coming, what was expected, and they were going to be doing the assessing of everyday assignments as well. So a whole lot of ownership, that sense of this is my job, I need to do it, that sense of I need to be disciplined, I need to submit on time, I need to be there, I need to ensure that not just me but my friends also are there, my group is able to do it. So a whole lot of responsible behavior is what eventually started emerging, and I think that's huge learning.
Also life lesson.
Yes. So, and a whole lot of resilience. I mean, we know that some children had scenarios which were really, really difficult, or even today have some family members suffering, some very critical things happening around them. And yet, even when, the teacher said, it's okay, you can take your time, maybe we can do this later for you. The child said, no, this sense of routine helps me. It helps me stay usual.
They were looking for structure.
Yeah, so this is so important. So let me be, I will do it. If I need that support, I'll let you know. So that voice and choice matters, I think. So that student voice and choice, the minute it's built into the system, it works. And it only encourages more resilience and well-being and helps them deal with challenges emotionally
Right. So building that, and also ways of thinking as well. I know my colleagues and the research would shout metacognition now. So there's a lot of metacognitive thinking about your own learning, how you learn, how you think.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put a big star on that as a kind of definite wins coming out of teaching during a pandemic for the students and their own character development.
Yeah, Lyn, I think metacognition is the one most important thing that we can really, empower our children with. We don't know what they will need 10 years down the line.
Yeah.
Everything is changing. They need to learn to learn.
Life skills, life competencies, which we'll be coming back to. But I think we've got Kavita. Are you there? Did we get you? No.
Hello.
I
think for a minute I just went blank.
Yes, we were like, no, we've lost one. But we're going around the panelists and we're saying, what's going, because obviously things have been so fast moving. What's happening for you now?
So I think we were very hopeful that we are going to meet everybody come June. And now there's like the whole situation seems to be going back to April 2020, and now I think today we are much better prepared to handle the things, and children are more receptive because, they've been through this whole thing. It has been a huge learning for them. And as Amrita said, initially, we also had our share of problems, our problems were slightly different, and they're still different in the sense we have children in all kinds of towns, not just metros. So the challenge is often not about the child's willingness or unwillingness, but about the availability of network. So we have these challenges still with us, and once we reopen, I think this will be a very big challenge to address the learning gaps in the sense which is not really a choice on part of the student, just for their own reasons. Wherever they are, there has not been much consistency in their attending classes. So the learning gaps will be there. So that is there. But having said that, we have built a very interesting system where often when children are not available online, we still manage to connect with them through our other system. And peer learning has been a very interesting thing. Children sharing with each other. In fact, just today I was watching, we started with a new school, how this child is very beautifully made a video explaining to his classmates how to, read the homework that is being sent, how to download it, how to, where to go and online, how to do it and how to upload. So it's like something which one child knows, and they're also getting very confident sharing their knowledge. So it hasn't been an easy path for sure, but I think our children have become more confident with their own knowledge. And one more thing I would like to say is that there's been a huge learning for them. Technology has really enabled them a lot.
Yes. I mean, you're mentioning here about the opportunities of it. So the sort of life lessons, life skills again, and competencies in terms of going digital, learning technology, but also on the social emotional side, pairing students up. So student mentoring, I mean, is basically what you're mentioning here, peer-to-peer. Had you been using peer mentoring before?
So we did have it, but I'm not so sure it was as extensive and as evolved as it is now. It is not just students. We've even got mentor schools.
Okay. Wow.
So
okay.
A school which has been around for quite some time, and where maybe the teaching resources are better, teachers have access to more technology, who are more able to produce those resources, are creating this and sharing with students and teachers who do not have access. So the mentoring is not just limited to one-to-one students. It is also a complete school, children coming and mentoring children of another school, adding their experiences for the other purpose.
Yeah. So these have been as good opportunity. What would you say has been your biggest challenge?
The biggest. There's so many challenges. I'm trying to figure out which is the
Choose
biggest
two,
one.
maybe. I'll be generous.
Okay. So I think the first biggest challenge was getting the teachers online. It's not something, getting the teachers to use technology. This is something we've been actively doing for so many years, but teachers have been very passively resisting it, And that was the biggest challenge, How do we get the teachers to quickly adapt? And believe me, they really rose to the occasion. We had extensive trainings. That was my biggest challenge, I would say. But of course, another big challenge was a lot of our children had moved to their native towns, So the network was not there. With pandemic hitting, a lot of parents had the freedom to work from home, so they moved to their native places. And so network was a major issue. Of course, from the students' perspective, I think the biggest challenge is trying to understand what is the socio-emotional impact on the children, because virtual medium is not the best means of truly understanding the extent of support they need.
Yeah, your fellow panelists have mentioned that. I think we all agree on this. Yes. So what's been your experience?
So, see, what happens is that in a classroom, the children have ample of opportunities to reach out to their teachers, to their mentors, to their peers. But when they are kind of isolated, locked in a virtual classroom, they don't really have those opportunities. So we have in the past 1 year tried to create these kind of opportunities by ensuring that every child has a mentor teacher, irrespective of whether she's teaching or he is teaching her or not. A child who is most comfortable with the teacher becomes his or her mentor teacher, who is in touch with the child on a very, very regular basis. And the contact is not only academic in nature. It is a very general conversation that, it's like giving the child an opening. If and when needed, a support system is available. This was one thing we started. Then we started doing a lot of things to inculcate positivity in children. We came up, we have always had this little slogan, I am a Vellamaliyam and I'm a very positive child, and I, appreciate every day, and I start every day with a positive approach. That was a phrase which we told children as a routine. We have something called calligraphy in our school. So we told the children every month, you're going to be writing that and sending. And we started appreciating the children who were writing it beautifully. The point is, the more you read a particular phrase, the more it, kind of works on.
Yeah. So positive affirmation. Yeah.
We tried positive affirmation in every possible way. We started a system where we made sure that every child was appreciated at least once a month for something or the other. We made them do something good, and then he was appreciated in front of the whole class, and a certificate or an appreciation letter was sent to him. So the parents also had an opportunity to acknowledge the child's effort. So we've tried putting some things together to help, but I'm not sure how much. Honestly, these are our efforts, but this, I think, is my biggest concern when children come back, their mental well-being.
This is coming out loud and clear from your other panelists as well, that this is an area. So how great, we got another panelist back. Would you like to comment on that, Amrita?
Yeah. So I actually was listening to Kavita and so agree with all these ideas. It is so important to continue that positive affirmation on a daily basis and the mentorship. So just adding to that this mentorship, is the one thing that supported teachers also. So it's not training. Training can never be top down. Even teachers need to have each other as mentors and peers. So what really worked, I think they did wonders. Yes, they really rose to the occasion, despite all that what you called passive,
No,
the way of
that was
avoiding it.
very much
Yeah.
there
Earlier.
before the pandemic, I would say.
Yeah. But then, everybody was almost like thrown into the deep end and we didn't know how to swim. Yeah. And here we were. Thankfully for us, it was writing on the wall and the teachers were already, so some initial training and etc. had already been done well before the lockdown, etc. was announced. But still, there is so much more. It's a whole pedagogy. There are so many apps and children do need to collaborate, and communication in the virtual world, as it were, is really different, and this generation needs it. So teachers were every day exploring various applications. Everybody was finding solutions to challenges that they were facing on a regular basis, and this they were being able to do because each one was a trainer or a mentor for the others in the professional learning community, as we called it, and they do lead their own CPD sessions in respective departments, which were weekly. So by the end of the year, they were all themselves saying that, I don't think we've learned so much in all these years as much as we have over this pandemic. There is so much of learning, and so were children saying that this is transformed. We could never have had maybe these 146 student exchange programs. Now students were interacting with students from across the globe. There was a lot of co-teaching happening. Teachers were planning lessons with teachers from across the globe, and a whole lot of different perspectives actually coming together in the classroom. And student mentors for each other did a fantastic job with I think we created what we called group captains in classes. So for every 5 kids, teacher, and this is a rotational responsibility, teachers gave these group captain responsibilities so that somebody missed on something, somebody could not understand where to put, something in terms of technicality and so on. So the group captain ensured that everybody was aware, everybody was aligned, and was there to provide the peer support, help, and you could reach out. Another beautiful thing that worked was care calls. So we call them care calls. And
I like that.
So on a daily basis, every homeroom teacher or class teacher would make at least a couple of calls to different parents. So in every class, there are roughly 25, 30 children. So in a month, the teacher could reach out to each one. So apart from mentors, the care call meant that the teacher would simply ask, how are you doing? Is everything fine? What support would you need from our end? And just a venting out. In the middle of all this, one very simple and sweet thing that helped teachers were missing their staff rooms. So we had some evening coffee sessions called gossip sessions, where teachers were let free, just gossip, just let your heart out, say anything and everything. I think that really helped because everybody was isolated, and talking to each other is such a manna that we all need.
They needed to get out, just have a gossip, just have a chat. You've got some fantastic solutions. Hamza, where are you?
I'm here.
You're here. Come and join us. What's your experience? You've listened to your fellow panelists there talk about some of the solutions. You've mentioned some of yours. Does any of that resonate with you about mentoring, care calls, etc.?
Yeah, it is for children. When we started off last year, as Mrs. Kavita Mathur says, first year was like we were like standing on ground where we were not very sure of it. But this year, we are super sure of how to navigate in this digital space. And even before the pandemic, we started we constructed a home platform from where we started delivering our sessions. So last year it was only captured class. We did not go like online like everybody to teach, because we felt that for a lesson, if all lessons are captured like videos, broken into small units, parents can use these captured lessons to teach at their own pace. It needn't have to be at a specific time, because we were trying to understand the pandemic situation. And in a family, if there is somebody who's affected by is affected with the coronavirus, then the whole family was attending to that person. So we didn't know what to do. And this captured lessons was well received by our parents, and they appreciated. First, it was academics. Then we gradually came out of academics, and we felt that this load should be replaced by something. And whatever we did in school, we went online doing it in the digital platform. So for instance, we also had our school governing council election happening online. And our governing body now, at this point of time, now for this academic year, they want to reach out to all their students. So senior students in touch with the K-12 classes, these governing council members, they have chosen a particular topic for each of the age group. For instance, for kindergarten, they're talking about food. So with the support of the teachers and parents, these students have kind of small group conversation with them, because during this pandemic and lockdown, the senior students felt that they have to address about food to these children. So little to the older children, they're addressing something like civic sense. And so they have chosen topics for each of the classes, and they are trying to reach out. So for these sessions, you'll be surprised, we have full attendance. Okay, so children like to be there. They want to listen to their seniors. They want to participate. They want to share their ideas. So a lot of discussions happen. So this is what I said, like through these kind of sessions is how we are trying to bring their lessons into learning. And I feel this wide digital space, so much to navigate within, and so many tech tools. And I don't know if we'll ever see the shore, we'll keep going on and on and on. And that is what is keeping the big surprise for us, because whatever we do now, we feel that the device and the child have become inseparable in some ways. And they have become very active with the device. And I should say they've become very responsible with the device. And they know how they have to be very engaged, how to go on with their day-to-day work. And in fact, if the teacher, ahead of the teacher, they are present in the class and they question the teacher, ma'am, you are late to class, to that extent, they have become, like how play is a business for children who are in 3 years and 4 years. For them, play is business. So for these children, learning itself has become a kind of a social, emotional support. Because when we're talking about non-academic skills, when we're talking about, because I like knowing more about non-academic skill. And these non-academic skills are now carrying more weightage into the sessions that we are handling with children. And we are we do not want to have too many sessions for them. We are limiting our sessions, but we're giving a lot of scope for the learner to lead the learning by themselves.
Right. How have your students surprised you during the pandemic?
During every year in our school, we have this strong practice of observing the United Nations goals. And these goals, we practice it right from drawing it as our notebook covers. So we know the goals. So children will illustrate on the goals, and those pictures itself will become our notebook covers. Okay. So children, so this time, those are the goals that they've taken up, and they did mini research and all these topics, and they did their presentation, and we had to invite them to school to display their presentation. To that extent, they went about, that's what I said, that ownership is, increasing within themselves. So these, through all these kind of topics, we are bringing more academics into their learning.
So has their sort of ability to independently learn and choose their own goals, has that been one of the positive surprises that has come
Yes,
out?
that is that exactly the same thing what you say. They surprise us with their own goals of what they want to do. So it is also like we started having names. We had names like bench. Okay, so bench is a place where the teacher and students will sit and have discussions about what they want to do in the
Yeah.
class, or what are all the things that they can possibly do as a group. And they also, the area coordinators also, we felt they should also have time with students, because how else can you look after the well-being of students, the mental well-being of students? How else can we look after their social emotional learning? Because academics is only a part. Children love coming to school not because they're learning ABCD or math or numbers. No, it's not like that. As soon as they come to school, they only want to see their friends. They want to say hello to their friends. They want to catch up with their friends of what happened in the night. So even in the digital space, that's the first thing they look forward to. It brings a lot of cheer when they see their friends in the digital space. So we had such kind of many sessions. We had different names, different kind of associations, different discussions into this. And they themselves had, as a group, they decided what they want to do. So that's how we went about it.
Right. I'm moving more now with the panel, so we can have some of the other panelists back if they want to, about thinking about transitioning back to school when that's going to happen. I know that's uncertain right now, isn't it? It's supposed to be kind of June, but you don't know. Do any of you or all of you have plans about what's going to happen for the next step?
Lots of plans, and I think the most important thing about the plans is that all these plans have to be flexible. That's the key word.
Yeah.
Because yes, the situation is consistently changing. There are all kinds of directives in accordance from the government end, and we have to follow. For instance, today in Haryana, there is a directive that the school calendar has to be changed, and you have to declare summer break now as in today onwards. So
wow, right, okay.
So I think being able to adjust whatever plans we have is the one thing that we've really learned, and I think that's important. So one of the things that our children and we as educators are also learning is thinking on our feet and being able to adapt very quickly to any kind of change. Okay, so this is it. So, okay, I'm not even going to be allowed to do remote learning. My teachers are anyway not in school. Children are anyway learning from home. And remote learning is happening all right. Everything's going well. But now there's this directive and I have to even close remote learning. Now what do I do? Okay, I have to announce a break, and then what next step? So these kind of things are happening on a fairly regular basis. Even within hybrid and all of this, if the vaccination works, things go back, and we're actually able to have children physically present in school as and when. We don't want them to lose out on all these wonderful things that they have learned during this very tough time. And therefore, I think one of the things that we are introducing going forward is BYOD, which we already introduced to parents. So the devices people have already purchased, so those who have can bring it to school. Now, technology is very powerful, can be an enabler, but can also be a demon, has to be tamed, and has to be kept in, so especially when you have those devices in school. So how to manage? So there are applications and security applications that need to be there that parents, even when kids are at home, actually require. And so do we when they're in school. So we have worked out all those, and those things are in place so that the app will ensure that once the child is in school physically, or for a certain number of hours, if we want to define, only education related apps will be working on their device, and all the other stuff will not work. So that children screen time, which is a concern for everybody, is genuinely utilized for learning, rather than, there is so much of, we did something called a vision championship when there was too much of discussion on screen time. And all we did was we requested everyone to maintain a journal to record how much of screen time as a parent or as a student am I spending every day and on what. So just trying efficiently and reducing how much of this is actually required from a learning point of view, and how much of it is just for fun. So or any other thing, maybe I'm just sitting on Netflix and maybe I'm just enjoying a game. So what really is going on with you and your child is something, and I think parents appreciated a whole lot of that. Another really surprising and wonderful thing suggested by some children. You asked a while ago some surprises from children. So children,
how they surprised us,
that what we really need right now is like a gratitude journal. So every day we put down in that gratitude journal all the things that we are grateful for. With so much of negative energy flowing around, yes, positive affirmation from teachers, as Kavita also pointed out a while ago, so beautifully done. So children said that we need for ourselves a gratitude journal, and in that it's also important to put down anything that we today probably see as a failure, because what probably looks like a failure today may not actually be or may not actually turn out a failure in your future. And even if it is, you either win or you've learned something, so it is still learning. And that power of yet is important, that mindset of growth is important, and therefore that coming from children is beautiful, and was genuinely surprising that they are thinking in these direction, and the whole perception of the idea, of the term failure has changed. It has changed to being something which is not, it's just a stepping stone. What looks like a failure is not necessarily what.
A change in mindset, but which is another fantastic way the students are surprising us during this time. And what you're saying, transitioning back to school, is keeping the technology but taming the technology, hybrid approach, flexibility all the way, because you can't be quite sure what's going to happen. Kavita, I'm going to pick on you and say, how are you going to identify, or how are you identifying students, individuals who might need extra support during this time, or going back into school?
Okay, I just thought of showing something to you.
Please.
Positive affirmation. This is a little card that every teacher in Velamal wears, right from the management to the youngest teacher. We are committed. This is a positive affirmation for, I don't know, probably it's coming as a reverse thing. I think this is, so coming back, this was just something I wanted to say. The positive affirmation is not just for the children. It's very much needed by the teachers also.
By the adults as well.
Management also needs the positive affirmation all the time. So coming back to your question, I'm sorry, can you just repeat it once again, please?
Right. How will you identify groups or individuals who might need more support? Are you using any assessments, or what's your method?
We are doing that. We have our own system within. Like I said, when we do plan to come back, the first most important thing that we are already working on is building a caring relationship, That is step one. Because when you show that caring, a lot of things come up. The deficiencies, the shortcomings, the child's inability to catch up with the content is also known through the sharing and caring of the relationship that you build up. The second thing that we have done is we have a diagnostic. We have something that we have every day called a daily review test. A very brief 5-10 minutes of a diagnostic that happens at the end of the day, which gives the teacher an understanding of how much the child has understood whatever was being taught and learned today. So that is like everyday feedback we get of each child. And we have kept our teaching very limited. We don't have too many periods. Like most schools I have come across have 5 periods, 6 periods in a day. We only have 3 periods in a day. So we've tried to keep it one online, one offline kind of a thing, so that we've planned our lessons in such a way that teachers also have enough opportunity to understand what the children are doing, how much are they understanding. Then second thing, we have a very, very robust feedback system, very strong feedback system, where so like what I am trying to say is that the learning gaps need not be analyzed by the teacher only. The child is also able to often identify his or her own learning gap and should have the confidence to come up to the teacher and say, I have not understood this. How do we go about it?
Right.
So we have, assessment is definitely a very important part. Like I said, we have a daily review test. Then we have other various systems that we have in place to constantly check every day.
Right. Would the other panelists like to, are there any other forms of assessment, way of sort of identifying, if you like, skills losses or socio-emotional behavioral assessments that you're going to, maybe you're using now or might use to get a better picture, better understanding of what's happening for the student?
Yeah, so agree with Kavita's ideas, and adding on to that, assessment is actually part of learning. It is assessment as learning and for learning, which really works on an everyday basis. And tools like Padlets, where teachers and students are able to see each other's work as they're doing it and discuss it, is really, really useful. And then I mentioned earlier, I think, SID marking. So what we essentially help children do in SID marking when they're doing their own self-assessment or peer assessment, or engaging in collaborative assessment of one work, they have to identify, they leave a large margin on the side whenever they're doing any assignment. They know that this is for their own remarks, and they put down strengths, whatever they feel are the strengths of that task that they've done. And then I standing for improvement areas or yellow boxes. This is my yellow box. This is what I need to work on. This is not so great yet. And they use different colors for this. So strengths are identified in green. I'm proud of this. Areas of improvement in yellow, my yellow boxes. This is one thing. So, and then the third is D, is how do I really improve on it? What do I need to do to make this better? So the development task. Now the development task, student identifies, teacher either agrees or adds to it, and so on. Once the children have done their bit of marking, teachers also use the same strategy, and are usually the idea is more often than not, teachers just adding on to that a little bit. But
just to clarify, this isn't just about academics. This is about how the student went about the task as well. So that's sort of competencies and skill, the other things as well that are important. I'm going to bring in Hamza. Hello. Listening to your other panelists, what has been your approach?
You spoke about.
Sorry,
we've got. Really sorry, we have reached the allocated time for our panel discussion today. So if we can wrap it and we can have final comments.
I thought we had about 10 minutes left.
So we have reached the time.
Okay, Lyn, I like to add to the question that you asked. This is not about academics. You asked about behavior, if I'm right in that question. So the school counselor has her own time with children on a weekly basis with different classes. And she also came up with her questionnaire, and she was free and open for children on all weekdays. So children can also approach approach her and talk to her and discuss. And she came up with a questionnaire on different things, even getting feedback from children, not as a teacher, not as a parent, but as a third person. And her inputs also gave us a lot of ideas on how we can reset things for children. So that helped us a lot. Yes.
Right, that's good to know. I mean, I was going to have my own about, Yvette will tell you more, but everything you're doing sounds really good. And there are different assessment solutions there and ways to look at the academics and the non-academic. But yeah, Yvette will tell you about CPSQ, which is a way to look at the individual in depth and understand what is happening for that student in terms of non-academic. So in terms of behaviours, attitudes, emotional, social. But Yvette will tell you a little bit more about that. But we've got our own solution as well, or one solution to this. Abhishek, is it possible that we can get the NEP question in about Build Back Better? Can we take a bit of Q&A time?
So we have allocated 15 minutes in the end once Yvette makes the presentation. So we can take those questions after that, if that is okay.
Yeah, that would be brilliant, because I think, one of our important areas is this kind of idea of, and all the panelists have touched on it, is, are we going back after this? And we will get to the other side. Are we going back to trying to go back to, if you like, normalcy or what it used to be, or are we going to try and build back better? And does this have any implications at all for the new education policy? I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to go. Who are we going to go for? Hamza.
So like when we go back, whatever we have gained from this beautiful space of learning and teaching, I don't even call it teaching anymore in our school. We only call it as co-learning. So when we are going to go back, it's only going to be co-learning. There's no going to be any teaching in our sphere at all. So we are withdrawing that word. So when we go back, we will carry all these beautiful new discoveries that we have made with learning, and we will also take it into when we go back to the normal. Like normal is face to face, when children will physically come back to school. So we will this will be whatever is there in the schoolroom, homeroom learning, what we have had now, we'll take it into school, amplify it more and get it more engaging. So I am very excited that when we go back to school, we have very many options, and all these options are going to help the learner become better and better. So the best, it's not even better, we'll become best. So excellence is going to be something that it is easy for us now, because we have many tools, many options, many avenues with which we can guide the learner. And for a teacher also, I become better because I'm employing, engaging all these tools.
Right. Kavita.
So,
build back better or back to normal?
I don't think so there's anything like going back at all. The calendar has moved on. The watch is moving forward. So we are definitely not going back. Do what we may, and with every week that the lockdown extends, the children are away from school, the scenario is changing step by step. So what I see is a very new possibilities when we come back to the campus, when we get together physically. It is going to be definitely a very different experience, because nobody can go back to being without technology as we were earlier. Now the challenge will be how to make use of that technology within the confines of the four walls of the classroom. And as I see it, the classrooms will definitely not be confined to the four walls of the classroom. We have learned to experiment with teachers from different schools, with resources from across the world, with trying all kinds of different possibilities. So thinking that we can go back will definitely not be happening. Whatever will happen will be a new present, is all I can say. Talking about, very briefly, I'll touch, because the new education policy is like one subject we can all go hours upon.
I believe, it's
one thing I would say, I just have one little thing to say, that it has come at a very, very opportune time. It couldn't have come at a better time. You see, we have been talking about changes for a very long time. In India, we love to debate everything. But right now, what has happened is that there was no time to debate. We were all, like Amrita said, we were all thrown into the sea, swim. And so the changes that the new education policy is talking about, we are already in the process of adopting a few of them. With the implementation of the education policy, we'll just be fine-tuning them and probably putting the process properly into place. So I think there are a lot of good things the new education policy is bringing, which will probably help shape our classrooms a little better. Something like, realignment of the curriculum, for less focus on textbook learning. These are things which the government through its education policy is working upon, which I think is really going to influence the classroom transaction in the months to come.
Great. Amrita,
So again,
build back better. And I know you can probably say also contribute a bit on the NEP as well.
yeah, and I'll be quick. I know we're at a...
I know. I'm going to get shouted at for this.
So I think as Kavita mentioned, and earlier Hamza also mentioned, there is co-learning and learning. There is no more really teaching. I think all of us are learning, and the classroom has transcended the idea of space and time. It cannot go back. There is a certain open sky in the classroom now in so many ways. NEP also is talking about some of the things that we referred to during this discussion: competency-based learning, skill-based focus, rather than resources, differentiated instruction, the need for it, need to personalize learning for each child, which is possible with the use of technology much more. Of course, it is possible otherwise too, but much more so. The focus on assessment as learning and for learning, all of these things, and much more student ownership and so on that we've been all talking about here, and for years now, is really also spoken about in the national education policy. And a whole lot of that has already been happening over the last year. So whenever we are back in school, it's going to be an effort to get the best of both worlds. There's so much that we missed about physical school. We all still do. I think we need to get those good things back. The one key aspect is building on each child's intellectual confidence, the ability to be themselves and to say whatever's on their mind without thinking that what I do will be, something that will hinder my self-image or something. Being, speaking your mind and taking a stand for what you really believe in is something that children need to learn much earlier on. And with that, the value focus, I think that equips them much better than anything else can.
Wow. And you'll believe it, that the whole, and from the other panelists, is this pandemic has brought out, this big change in the world has brought out that opportunity. And also I'm getting that in a way, because I don't know a lot about your new education policy. You do, you're more the experts at it, but it seems like it's timely to me with its kind of emphasis on personalization, technology, competencies and skills, kind of life competencies and skills, transferable skills and competencies, rather than more narrower or rote learning. It just sounds like very timely. There's a synergy there. I thank you very much. I will have to stop now, but thank you all so much. This has been amazing. You've come up with solution after solution. These are dark times, but you've given the highlight is that there's so much opportunity that is coming out of it in terms of learning and teaching. Oh, you're not making the separation anymore. You're saying co-learning. That's what it's about, co-learning. And I love the idea that learning has gone beyond the classroom time and confined space. And we can also learn from each other globally as well. You know, it doesn't have to be a lesson within your country. You could be joining a lesson in America or the UK or Singapore or wherever. I just think although it can feel a bit dark now, it is bringing a lot of opportunity with it. And thank you very much. Amazing thing. You're very inspiring, all of you. I wish you'd be my teacher, all of you. I wish you'd be my teacher.
Thank you, Lyn. Thank you very much.
You're teaching me now.
It was a pleasure being here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right, what's next?
Yeah, thank you so much to all our panelists and Lyn for sharing the valuable comments that you shared with our audience today. And now, and I would request all our panelists to stay with us for some more time because we have a Q&A session in the end. And before that, we have a presentation on Cambridge Personal Styles Questionnaire. So to introduce CPSQ to us, I am happy to welcome my colleague, Ms. Yvette Qureshi. She is the Senior Marketing Manager for Admissions Testing Team. She has worked for Cambridge Assessment for 15 years, initially as part of Cambridge English team, and then moving to the Admissions Testing team 7 years ago. So over to you, Yvette.
Hello, thank you very much. Abhishek, can I just check where I can find the slides? I
will upload it.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Well, just to say good evening to everyone from Cambridge. It's an honour to be here with you. And Lyn has briefly mentioned already about our Cambridge Personal Styles Questionnaire. So with limited time, I'll just get straight in. So what is CPSQ? It's a questionnaire of attitudes and behaviours or personal styles. And I think the panel has shown us today how incredibly important these aspects are in terms of students dealing with the situation in learning from home, online learning, and how important they're going to be in terms of returning to education and building back better. It's so the students completing this get a competency report with the personal descriptions of their strengths and areas for improvement. And the assessment can be taken online when and where you want using PC, tablet or mobile. So if we're thinking about situations where students are currently at home, this is an assessment that they can take, from their home without needing to be in school or in a test centre. And it can be a really useful way to provide a sort of indicator to help you understand the situation through their behavioural styles, their strengths and weaknesses, and how these could affect their support needs and their wellbeing needs. It's suitable for learners aged 14 plus, and the minimum English requirement is around B1 on the Common European Framework. And so the idea behind this is to focus on what will make the most difference now. Students have experiencing very challenging situations, and there's a whole lot of things that we could look at, a whole range of things, but students are all different. They all have different personalities, different behaviours, and as well as different experiences of the pandemic. And that means that they'll react in different ways to things. So CPSQ can help you get an insight into an individual student's strengths and weaknesses and implement targeted support. Now, we've heard a lot today about the implementation and the widening of mentoring as part of the response to online learning. And I think this is absolutely perfect, way to really gain a bit of insight to help people talk with their mentors about behaviours, to help them open up. Perhaps the students who are quieter, less willing to volunteer information, less willing to come forward and say, I need help. But if they're taking an assessment and have a report that they can discuss, this can really help them understand and talk about these things. And we hope that this will help them get back on track and, in fact, build back better, because these are skills not just relevant to the pandemic, but these are, competencies for study and for life in general. So here's just to show you what the assessment looks like. It's a online questionnaire, and students respond to statements with their level of agreement about how they think, feel, behave, or respond to situations. It's online, takes about 30 minutes to complete. And you'll see that if a student responds with the same level of agreement to certain statements, they're asked to rank them to say which is more like me and which is less like me. This encourages reflection on their behaviours and increases the accuracy of the assessment. And here's what we're measuring, looking at thinking, study, coping, communication, and collaboration. And I hope that these are all things that really resonate with you. And I think we've talked a lot about, for instance, the amount of self-discipline and conscientiousness that students need to respond to these situations. So looking at the study competency looks at that motivation to achieve and self-management. We also have the coping, which is really about resilience and adaptability to demands. But we'll have a little look at some more in detail in a minute. So in terms of the report, students receive a report. So each of those competency areas, they receive feedback. So for things like the study, they receive a score out of 5. And the higher the score is, the more likely it is that attitudes and behaviours support educational progress. But the idea here is not to provide a judgment or a certification of their level on these competencies. It's really about providing an indicator and providing feedback for how they can develop themselves or how you can work together. So they have positive, neutral, and points to improve. These will vary depending on the responses. These are all personalised depending how the student responds. So the areas that we kind of may be really crucial in today's situation. So we've talked about this study competency, motivation and self-management. So in research into personality and behaviours, we find that high scores indicate stronger conscientious attitudes and behaviours, whereas people with low scores in these types of areas are less likely to naturally develop productive study habits and may have poorer academic results. And our own work with Imperial College London, they found that the study competency was predictive of exam results in one of their engineering courses. But as I say, our emphasis here is on implementing action and trying to work on these through mentoring, through personal development plans. And we find that the study competency is one of the things where it's really, this is one of the easiest in some ways to implement actions. So you could look at goal setting, time management. It's using the information to kind of put in place measures that can help the student fulfill their potential. One of the other areas we've talked about is this area about resilience, coping with demands, resilience to challenges and change, failure, absolutely crucial to to a person's well-being in the current climate. So this is the coping with demands area that we look at in CPSQ. So of course, you could use this to identify students who, you often find that students who are, could be very conscientious and they could have very good study skills, but this area could be a barrier to their well-being and to their academic success. So having this insight is something that in a school we've worked with in the UK, for instance, they've said this really helped a student, to identify something that could have become a problem and put in place action before it affected their academic outcomes. And of course, communication and collaboration. These are interpersonal well-being indicators. So with the school closures and the move to online learning, we've heard from the panelists how students can, if they can retreat into the background if they're not feeling, positive about things. They don't have the opportunities to reach out to people face to face. And if, students, do not have they could find that these skills and these areas are suffering because of the situation. So using CPSQ to have a look at these areas, you could find that students who are not scoring so, who, have some issues around here, you can identify people who might find it challenging to seek help and, just go to them. I mean, talked a lot about, the sort of, mentoring and the opportunities to go and speak to people. So these could be raised, it could be a really interesting way to raise these as part of discussions based on feedback from an assessment. So I think I've probably talked a lot about this, but I think how CPSQ is used, it's around understanding vulnerable students in need of extra pastoral care. It's around understanding hidden barriers to well-being and learning and success, and about targeting interventions and mentoring time, but also about motivating students' own interest in personal development. And I just wanted to share with you a quote from a school we've been working with in the UK. They see that CPSQ is a really useful point to start open up conversations. They find it accurate identifying students' areas for improvement, and it targets mentoring and helps make programs efficient by saving time. So with such a challenging time that we have, people are keen to implement and carry on these wellbeing initiatives, but it can help focus on the things which are most important and are going to make the biggest difference right now. So I think the local, you can speak to the local Cambridge team about this, but of course there's an option for schools to become a CPSQ centre and to offer it to your own students. And apart from the benefits we've talked about, I think this also can really help you demonstrate your commitment to learner development and well-being. You can show the students and their parents your commitment here. And if you become a centre, you get to purchase the assessment at the board fee, and you can use the CPSQ logo on your websites to show people that you're using this. And there's also a really user-friendly platform where you can manage your own assessment sessions directly if you become a centre for your students. And I don't know if we have any Cambridge English test centres here in the room today, but I think CPSQ can really enhance the portfolio of services offered to your clients. And you get access to use Cambridge Assessment admissions testing branding. So admissions testing is the department of Cambridge Assessment that we are here that produces this assessment. And we can support you with sales and marketing support and training. Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to stop the slide presentation and hand back. And I think we're now into Q&A time.
Thank you so much, Yvette, for the presentation. And now we will move on to the Q&A session. So please use the chat box and type in your questions. You will see there is one circle in front of the chat. So in case you're asking a question, you can mark it as Q so that we identify that's the question for our panelists, and accordingly, I will direct them to the panelists. In the meantime, I would like to share while the participants are typing in their question, there are a lot of positive feedback for our panelists, and they're thanking them for such a wonderful session. So if you have any questions regarding the questionnaire, or if you have any questions for our panelists,
whatever we have gained from this beautiful space.
I think the mic of one of our panelists is on. I would request if they can unmute their device. Thank you.
Lyn, you're on mute.
Okay, so we have one question from Mr. Sayed. He's asking, can you please let me know the self and peer assessment tools other than Padlet and their working? Are you able to hear me, Lyn?
Would you like me to take that?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, so yeah, Padlet I already mentioned. Other than Padlet, there is Kahoot, there is Quizzes, there is a whole lot of others actually. It's just about going ahead and exploring. And there is a whole lot of gaming tools as well. Neopod is very, very useful. And you can set your entire lesson in it and mix in as many other tools that you, apps and tools that you want to as a teacher, and also, help children identify. But other than that, what is very, very key is, while technology is useful, we cannot lose touch with children actually writing. So what we've been really emphasizing is that children do write in their notebooks. It also saves on some screen time when the child is looking at a book instead of a screen, and looking at the notebook and writing in the good old way. That continues in any case, in an Indian curriculum, CBSE, ICSE school, they would later appear for an exam, a board exam, which would expect them to. So therefore, that's important to stay as a skill. So they write, and they use these 3 colored pens if there's written assignments on their own paper without an app on their own. They just upload it in the assignment sections on whichever software is being used. We have been using Microsoft Teams, but I know schools have been using Google Meet, many have been using Zoom and others. And there are breakout rooms and these ways in every software. So I hope that
Dr.
answers.
Vohra, for answering that question. I think your question has been answered, Sayed. I'm looking for some more questions.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Shubham Patel has asked, can we get the recording previous conversation? Yes, we will be getting the recording of this session after this is over. So you will get an email from us that will have the link.
They
replay link.
recorded mine and they sent.
Okay, so Gayatri has asked, how can we improve writing skills in online sessions as students are now not in the habit of writing? So the panelists, if they can take up this question.
Sorry, can you repeat what was the first part of it? I couldn't hear it with all the.
So someone has asked that how can we improve writing skills in online sessions as students are now not in the habit of writing?
So
can I?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Can I answer it?
Yeah, sure.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Please
so just like, we go more with discussion, writing is something not straight away we go into writing. But before going into writing, we do a lot of discussions. And those discussions, now it is no more like one child writing for one assignment. So we do it as group work. And that kind of a group work in remote learning is also giving them a lot of confidence to improve their writing skills. So this, even I feel very confident about it. Engaging children in a class, if you have 40 students. So if you take up 4 writing passages, and if you put them into groups, like ma'am said, you have in Zoom breakout rooms you have. So they can have their discussions and they essay it as a group. It gives them more confidence. So if there are students in that group, a mixed up group with with some students who are very good at it, and there are some who are not very confident about their writing skill also. But when they work together as a group, it gives them a lot of idea, it gives them a lot of direction, and it gives them a lot of confidence. So from there, we can take it on, because as we are doing learning in remote. So this is my suggestion.
Thank you, ma'am. We have another question from Rakhi Mukherjee, and she asks, could we see a sample of self-assessment which is being mentioned? So I think Yvette just showed the the sample of the assessment, how it works. But if you really want to know more about it, so we'll be sharing feedback and expression of interest link on the chat option. So once you click on it, fill up all the details, and a representative from Cambridge Assessment English team will get in touch with you to discuss this opportunity more in detail. And as we talk, I'm going to share it in the sticky notes, the yellow one, just above the chat option. So you can either give your feedback and fill up the expression of interest from here, or you will also get a follow-up email from our side, which will also have the link to share your feedback and expression of interest. While I post that, there is another question from Harpreet Kaur, and she has asked. I think this question is for Mrs. Kavita Mathur, and she has asked, please repeat how we can use this card. We are commitment or committed.
Okay, so see, we all need positive affirmation. Just because we are mentors, we are teachers, it does not mean we are, we come with some inbuilt stamina to be always perfect, to be always mentally on the go. We also need a commitment. We need something to go on telling us we are committed to the profession that we have come to. We are committed to the well-being. Because you see, when you are physically present in the class, the presence of those children, the environment of the school takes you to a different level. Sitting in your own room, and a lot of our teachers are probably, they don't even have the luxury of having big rooms to themselves. They're in a house where probably the children are taking their own classes. The teacher's desperately trying to sit in one little corner and conduct her class, and her husband is probably somewhere else, and the joint families. There are a whole lot of issues the teacher is already facing while trying to put across a very, very positive image in front of all the children. She needs some kind of, what should I say, something kept in front of her to kind of keep reminding her, I am committed to what I'm doing. Why am I here? I'm not just sitting at home and doing some, something in front of a computer. I am committed to what I am doing. And we have had very frequent sessions with teachers. Our counselors have taken sessions with teachers also along with children for their well-being, for bringing this whole thing back to them, that you have a very important role to play. I think one of the panelists had mentioned that a lot of children were going through a lot of trauma. So have the teachers been. They have lost their family members. And we have had teachers who have been ill and still continue to hold the classes. So what is it that is going to push them forward? This I am committed is just a small little paper reminder to each one of us. This is my bigger mission in life. This is why I'm doing what I'm doing, in spite of all my problems that I'm facing every day in my life. That is what it stands for.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for the answer. And I think we have reached the time, but let's take one last question. And there are two questions, basically. I'm clubbing it together. So Dr. Jyoti Ramesh has asked, how can addition of CPSQ help engineering students? What assessments will be available for them? And similarly, Aisha has also asked, how can we use CPSQ in our center or in our institution? So I would request if Lyn or Ivit can take this question. Lyn, you're on mute because we can't hear you. We can't hear you, Lyn. You're not audible.
Shall I start talking while Lyn gets her microphone sorted, and then she can take over from me? So the one question was about engineering and about Imperial College London. So we've got a case study that we could perhaps share in the chat or things. So they use it on one of, I think it's their mechanical engineering undergraduate course, and they use it alongside some of their first year exams. And the idea there is, of course, Imperial is, top university, and they get very, very intelligent students. But sometimes they find that when they get through that, the first period of study, that they're not doing as well as they expected. And they think a lot of this is not to do with, the knowledge. It's about, the behaviors and the competencies that they have in that area, the non-academics. And so what they do is they use this, and it really provides an insight into how their behavior may be affecting their academic outcomes. So they hold a session for the students to kind of feed back on the assessment, and then the students kind of take that forward and work on their own personal development plans and actions related to things. So for instance, we said about the study competency earlier, so that, it could be around time management, it could be around planning of their work. It's really working with the feedback from the feedback points from CPSQ to understand how their behavior is affecting their academic success. Are you back, Lyn? No, Lyn's still, unfortunately, Lyn's still me. So hopefully that's that question. What was the second one?
Second question was that how they can use CPSQ in their institution.
Yeah, so I mean, it depends on the type of institution. So I mean, for all types of organizations, it can be used as part of this, personal development process. It could be like Imperial alongside exams, or it could be, at the start of a sort of an academic program or more a program of study. You could use it as part of classroom activities if you have these sorts of sessions focusing on skills, to kind of, have the class take it and then to discuss together, or it could be used as part of personal mentoring with teachers or with peers. So that is, there's sort of a wide range of uses.
Thank you, Yvette, for answering that question. And I think since we have run out of the time and we're not able to answer all the questions, so please, I would request you to fill up the expression of interest or feedback form so that our team can get in touch with you to answer all your queries or concerns that you have. So we'll be more than happy to connect with you and answer those. So please, you will find the expression of interest or the feedback form just above the chat under the yellow background. I have pasted a link there. Once you click on that link, you will be able to give us your feedback and expression of interest. In case you're not able to give us your feedback from here, then you will get a follow-up email from our side, which will also have this link. Right. So thank you so much to all our panelists, Dr. Amrita Vohra, Ms. Hamza Priya, Mrs. Kavita Mathur, and Lyn Dale, and Ms. Yvette Gurgaon. Once again, everyone, have a lovely evening ahead and stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.